Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Cold Hard Truth podcast. I'm Srikar, and in today's episode, we are going to be going over my very first mock draft of 2021. I am so hyped. It is draft season, and all the rumors of Deshaun Watson are flying around, so this is a no-trade first-round mock draft, and I am so hyped to get into it. But before we get into the very first pick, which belongs to the Jacksonville Jaguars, make sure if you enjoy the video, you leave a like and subscribe, hit the bell so you're notified when the Cold Hard Truth drops a new video. Make sure you follow the socials. We are on Instagram and Twitter. Those will be down in the description, so make sure you follow those. Hey man, let's get right into it. It is draft season, folks. And at number 1, the Jacksonville Jaguars, they hired Urban Meyer this past week. And look, there were immediately people ready to make the connection between him and Justin Fields. You know, there was no shortage of speculation that Meyer could take Fields over Trevor Lawrence. Here's the thing about that, though. Meyer has no actual connection to Fields. He simply played for a program that he once coached, but never for Meyer. So I think it would be foolish to assume that the Jaguars would switch course from Lawrence. So the Jaguars take Trevor Lawrence with this first pick. Moving on to number 2, the New York Jets. Another head coach hire to speak of. The Jets are bringing in former 49ers defensive coordinator Robert Saleh to man the sidelines for the foreseeable future. And with that, you know, the future of Sam Darnold, it remains in some flux as no decision has been made as to whether or not the Jets are going to hang on to him or instead try and move him. For me, I think Darnold is damaged goods in New York. His career could still be salvaged elsewhere, but Robert Saleh and the Jets need to find some new blood at the position and do a full reset there. So Fields is the obvious choice here. And sure, he was overwhelmed by Alabama, but I wouldn't necessarily blame that on Justin Fields. I think his dynamic playmaking with an accurate arm to all levels of the field and great athleticism make him a fascinating prospect with extremely high upside. I think this is the type of player New York needs to build excitement in that city. And at number 3, the Miami Dolphins are on the clock. Look, there have been strong rumblings coming out of Miami that this franchise could potentially change course. Not only was there the report that some players on the roster don't have faith in Tua, but the Watson trade rumors have connected the Texans to the Dolphins. In fact, Adam Schefter reported that Miami was Watson's preferred trade destination if Houston deals him. However, you know, Tua did get votes of confidence from the front office and coaching staff, so I'm sticking with the frame of mind that he's their quarterback moving forward, and as such, the Dolphins used the number 3 pick to build a wall in front of him with Penei Sewell. It's been a long time since we've seen him on the field, but his blend of size, strength, athleticism, in sync with his youth, I mean, that makes him an elite tackle prospect, one of the best tackle prospects we've seen in quite some time, and look, this could be a game-changing pick for the Dolphins. At number 4, the Atlanta Falcons. You know, the Falcons at 4, it's a fascinating case in this draft because as of right now, they still have Matt Ryan and Julio Jones on the roster. But with the arrival of Arthur Smith and both of their standout offensive cornerstones getting up there in age, you know, it could be time for a change. That's the direction they go here as they land on Zach Wilson as the pick here. Wilson is one of the biggest risers in the entire class, but for good reason. While he'd already flashed the ability to make plays with his legs, either off script, you know, or in zone read situations, Wilson made great strides as a passer. He's accurate to all levels of the field, and I think he has plenty of arm strength to fire the ball into windows. And I think with some more progression in terms of making the jump to reading actual NFL coverages, Wilson could be a star quarterback in this league with the tools he already possesses. And at number 5, the Cincinnati Bengals. Full disclosure with this pick, Rashawn Slater, he hasn't been this high in any mock draft I've seen to this point, but Daniel Jeremiah, he made a note, I think it was at the end of November, that he was his top-rated offensive lineman over Penei Sewell. And that set off some alarms to a lot of people because not only is Jeremiah simply good at his job, but he's well-sourced in the league. So you have to believe NFL teams are high on Rashawn Slater. So even with Sewell going off the board at number 3, the Bengals are able to fill a major need on the offensive line, bypassing another weapon for Joe Burrow by selecting Rashawn Slater. I think he's both technically sound. He's a strong athlete. He can line up at tackle, but he can also slot inside with ease. And, you know, that versatility, it's going to be so valuable because Cincinnati is just a line star place. And he can just come in, fill holes wherever he's needed. I think it's a great fit for the Bengals. And at number 6, the Philadelphia Eagles. Look, tumultuous times are quickly developing in Philly as Doug Peterson was fired, and questions remain about the future of Carson Wentz. But whether it's Wentz or Jalen Hurts at quarterback moving forward into next year and the years to follow, the wide receiver position needs to continue to be addressed. And who better to do that than the Heisman Trophy winner himself, Devonta Smith? He is an absolute stud. Now, I will admit he is a bit undersized, but I'd say he shows up in every facet of the game. He's unafraid to attack every level of the field, and he has a knack to create consistent separation from coverage with his blend of athleticism and highly refined route running for being a college player. Now, some would say Jamar Chase should be the pick here, but frankly, Smith would provide the consistent weapon that's needed in the Eagles' passing attack. I am higher on him than I am on Chase. I know it's a very hot debate. Jack has an episode on it, so go check it out. I hope he's going to link it somewhere, or I'll link it somewhere in this video, but go check that out if you haven't already. And at number 7, the Detroit Lions are on the clock. Here's what I'll say about the Lions. Overcorrections are something that happens in every facet of life. So it really shouldn't be a surprise to see the Lions change course from whatever Matt Patricia was doing to, Dan Campbell at the head coach spot. It's not a bad hire at all. There are questions here too about the future of Matthew Stafford, but at the end of the day, I think the defense remains, the glaring wart of this roster. And there are some intriguing pieces on the Lions defense, but I think they need a general to both man the middle of the field and lead the charge. You know who fits the bill? Micah Parsons. I think Micah Parsons has all the tools to be that player. He's had his motivation called into question before, but his talent, his on-field performance are wholly undeniable. And I think he has the potential to be an all-pro linebacker early in his career. At number 8, the Carolina Panthers. Look, some people are quick to pencil the Panthers in as a team that could select a quarterback, even by way of trading up in the draft. I do think Teddy Bridgewater was good enough, though, in his first season with the franchise to make me believe that he deserves another chance to start turning things around with this young roster. And adding Kyle Pitts would go a long way in that capacity. Look, Pitts is an absolute matchup nightmare. He's got the ability to move like a wide receiver, and he's got the size of an elite tight end. And in this season, he improved immensely as a blocker to make him an even more valuable asset at the position. I think his ability to contribute as both a move blocker and a dynamic passing game weapon, it would be a great addition to the Carolina offense, and it would really help the guy under center, Teddy Bridgewater. At number 9, it's the Denver Broncos on the clock. Now, there were a number of directions to go with the number 9 pick for the Broncos. Quarterback was a consideration, as the second-year returns on Drew Lock were more concerning than consoling. And furthermore, the future of Von Miller is looking less certain by the day. However, the secondary was the point of focus here, largely because Patrick Surtain was still on the board. He is the prototype for the position, and he should be ready to hit the ground running in the NFL. He was just blessed with great size and length. And while he may not be an otherworldly athlete, I think he's more than capable. He can win with his physicality on the outside. He's got a high football IQ. He's definitely a young asset that the Broncos are currently lacking in the secondary and could solidify the top of that group for years to come. And at number 10, the Dallas Cowboys. It's no secret that the Cowboys secondary was an outright problem this past season, and it's only going to get worse as things stand currently going into next year. With key players in the secondary set to hit free agency, the Cowboys must give Dan Quinn some quality bodies to work with in pass coverage if they have hopes of rekindling the magic he created in Seattle with the Legion of Boom. Caleb Farley out of Virginia Tech could help them accomplish exactly that. He did opt out of the season with the Hokies, but I think he put enough on tape last year to make him worthy of a top 10 pick. I'd say he's every bit the player that Surtain is. It's just a bit less name brand value and trustworthiness, but on the field, his blend of physical tools, he's got the ball skills, he has an overall feel for the position, and that just makes him a player who could pair extremely well with Trayvon Diggs on the outside in Dallas. At number 11, Kwity Paye to the Giants. Now look, the Giants are a team that has far more questions than answers moving forward. They're still looking for a definitive answer to if Daniel Jones is their long-term option at quarterback. But while they figure that out, I think the primary concern should be to fix the biggest weaknesses on a defense it's just been downright bad for the past few years now. And Kwity Paye, he could provide a solution to their biggest problem there. Big Blue has simply struggled to consistently generate pressure from the defensive line, and more pointedly off the edge. Paye comes out of Michigan with an ideal frame. He can put his hand in the dirt, rush off the edge, be a real force for the Giants moving forward. And at number 12, my hometown and favorite team, the San Francisco 49ers on the clock. And look, we're now entering the second straight offseason in which Niners fans are trying to usher Jimmy Garoppolo out of San Francisco, but it feels much more likely to actually happen in some capacity this offseason. Whether it's a trade for Deshaun Watson, something the Niners should be heavily intrigued by the way, or just simply using the number 12 pick to draft Jimmy G's successor, they've got plenty of options. In this mock draft, they elect to go with the latter option by taking North Dakota State's Trey Lance. Though he is still a bit raw with just one full year of starting at the FCS level to his credit, I think Lance has a tool chest that's packed to the brim with a strong arm, albeit lacking in consistent accuracy, and he has the ability to create with his legs. I think letting him develop for a year is necessary as he gets up to speed with the NFL, but Lance's ceiling it's just jaw-dropping to consider. I think his ceiling is definitely a top 5, maybe top 3 quarterback. And that's something the 49ers definitely want to take a chance on and let develop. At number 13, the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, for the Chargers to fully capitalize on the talent that they have on the roster, they need to do 2 things. The first of those is to get the defense playing at a level that simply isn't, harmful to the game-by-game cause. And hiring Brandon Staley should be a great start there. He's got a breadth of talent at his disposal on that side of the ball to mold a quality unit. And the other thing the Bolts need is to provide quality protection for Justin Herbert and the offense. That's why the selection of Christian Darrisaw is obvious. Tackle has been a problem spot for the past few years in Los Angeles, but he helps immediately. He would be a day 1 starter for the Chargers and set Herbert up to further make strides after a strong rookie campaign, in spite of some of his circumstances. And at number 14, the Minnesota Vikings. Look, I'll admit the Vikings are the team I struggle with the most in terms of determining what they need to address in the draft. With the way the defense performed this past season, it's hard not to think that they couldn't use help on that side of the ball. Having said that, they also banked on a ton of young players to rebuild a unit that had a ton of turnover. With experience, I think the defense could potentially grow and improve next season. Simultaneously, though, the Vikings continue to have issues with the interior of the offensive line. So with this pick, they get Elijah Vera Tucker from USC to hopefully improve things in that area. He's another big riser in this draft class, but look, it's not hard to see why. He's had a stellar performance for the Trojans. His blend of strength, his athleticism, it makes him the top interior lineman in the class and an option for Minnesota at number 14. And at number 15, the New England Patriots. Look, for whatever reason, it's hard for me to believe that the Patriots are going to draft a quarterback this offseason. Yes, all signs point to the Cam Newton era in Foxborough, only lasting 1 year, and nothing we've seen from Jarrett Stidham makes you believe he's a long-term option. Quite the opposite, in fact. Yet, it feels as if Bill Belichick will come with an option for next year or longer that doesn't include the draft. That's why we turn to the wide receiver core with the number 15 selection in this mock draft, as whoever lines up under center needs substantial help. They're lucky to see LSU's Jamar Chase fall into their laps somehow, and after opting out for this year, our last memory of him in college is a 20-touchdown campaign that culminated in a national championship. His ability to win in all areas of the field would give the Patriots a go-to weapon they're desperately hungry for right now. A case could be made that the Cardinals need to rework parts of their offense as they move forward. Kyler Murray is an electric playmaker, but the offense sputtered down the stretch of the regular season. However, improving a defense that was just as inconsistent, but also has a lower ceiling, I think that would help make the team take an even bigger step forward. And getting Chandler Jones more help up front is critical. Though Joseph Osai is raw technically, his 2 defining traits are his explosive athleticism and his never-ending motor when coming off the edge. He made one play after another for the Longhorns. He's got the ability to get into the backfield and generate pressure, but also drop back adequately. With all of that, I think he'd be a great complement to Jones, which would in turn improve the Cardinals' defense, especially as he gets NFL coaching to further hone his skills. And at number 17, the Las Vegas Raiders. One of the big hopes for the Raiders this past offseason was that the signings of Corey Littleton and Nick Kwiatkowski would solve the long-standing issue at linebacker. That didn't fully happen, unfortunately, even if they did take a step forward in that regard. So they need to be targeting another playmaker who can line up in the middle of the defense, and Zaven Collins from Tulsa is the perfect player for that. While at Tulsa, Collins moved all around the defense and excelled in every role. He's good at crashing down into rushing lanes. He can also track sideline to sideline. He can provide good coverage play as well. Moreover, he's a good rusher when he's deployed as a blitzer from various spots. That's a player Las Vegas doesn't have on the roster and who could substantially help the Raiders defense be ready to make a playoff push, because that's what ultimately held them back this year. And number 18, the Miami Dolphins are back on the clock. And for all of the good things that the Dolphins have done thus far in their substantial rebuild, one of the weaknesses that's still present is the lack of quality depth at wide receiver. Devontae Parker has finally started to live up to his potential, but Preston Williams, he struggled to stay healthy, and the others in the group are role players. For Tua to have the opportunity to prove himself, he needs more to work with. So pairing Tagovailoa with his former teammate at Alabama, Jalen Waddle, would be a nice step in that direction. He's armed with elite playmaking, both as a vertical threat, and he's got the ability to run after the catch. I think he's a big play waiting to happen, while also having the frame to win in traffic. While his ankle injury in the season does raise a bit of a concern, getting him at number 18, I think that's a steal for Miami, to be quite honest. And at number 19, the Washington football team. Frankly, I'm not sure what the football team has planned at quarterback. Alex Smith defied the odds to even take the field this season, but he was also good enough to push the team into the playoffs, albeit as a sub-500 division champ in the weak NFC East. Then Taylor Heineke came into the mix for the playoffs and set the football world abuzz with a star-making performance, even if he's not a long-term option. An investment in quarterback sooner rather than later is needed, but this may not be the year. Instead, they should grab a player like Alabama's Alex Leatherwood to keep laying the groundwork for the future. Leatherwood, he's a mauler in the run game. He's got more than adequate pass protection as well. More importantly, he's a locker room leader that the team can rally behind. With a need to get younger and fortify the O-line, look, Leatherwood would be a home run pick. And at number 20, the Chicago Bears. Contrary to the situation Washington is in, Chicago has to leave no stone unturned when it comes to the quarterback spot. You honestly have to wonder if they will be the team that is the one to give a king's ransom to the Texans to get Watson when it's all said and done, given the state of their roster and their glaring hole at quarterback. But without that trade, I think Mac Jones is the easy selection in the first round of the draft. Jones doesn't have the same tools as players like Lawrence, Fields, Wilson, Lance, but that doesn't mean he can't be a quality NFL starting quarterback. His deep ball might actually be the best in the class, and he's an excellent decision maker as well. And while his arm strength won't blow you away, I think his IQ allows him to make the right throws to all levels, and he could be the player to finally stabilize the position in the Windy City. And number 21, the Indianapolis Colts. Now, for as good as the Colts defense was this past season, there were times when the secondary really struggled. Xavier Rhodes turned out to be a good addition in free agency, while Rock Ya-Sin continues to show promise as a young player. But the overall group needs some real help if they want to keep the defense playing at a high level beyond the campaign. J.C. Horn, the son of former NFL wide receiver Joe Horn, came up big for South Carolina this season and established himself as a first-round prospect. I think Horn has the length you want at the position, and he's great when he's asked to be physical in coverage. He's not an elite athlete, but Indianapolis, their whole scheme and what they've been doing the past few years, I think they've succeeded greatly in putting their players in roles in which they succeed. Those areas are obvious for Horn, and he could thrive in Indianapolis. And at number 22, the Tennessee Titans. Look, even after signing Jadeveon Clowney, a move that made waves when it happened, the Titans consistently struggled to generate a pass rush. Harold Landry, a young former second-round pick, he continues to be good and an underrated asset. But I'd say he's often left on an island on the edge because he can't get consistent help. That's where Gregory Rousseau could come in and change the complexion of this defense. In truth, it's a shame Rousseau opted out of the season with Miami, as he could have been a top 10 lock with another year to put on film, because he's still raw as a pass rusher, but his blend of length and explosiveness make him a rare physical specimen as an edge rusher. With the right coaching to develop him further technically, Rousseau could be a massive addition for the Titans. And at number 23, the Jets are back on the clock. After securing Fields at number 2, the next order of business for the Jets might be addressing the defense, especially with Saleh being the man they chose as the head coach. But at the same time, the Jets defense actually showed promise at the end of last year, and perhaps Saleh is content to build on that right now while fixing the issues on offense tenfold, namely by next getting Fields a viable option to throw to. While Denzel Mims still has upside after his rookie season, the Jets' pass catchers are among the worst groups in the league. Fields needs weapons whom he can rely on when he drops back, and Rashad Bateman is that type of player. Though he's not a speedster in the purest sense, Bateman is a terrific vertical threat who would play to Fields' strengths as he can get open down the field, and that would be a huge boost to an offense that sorely needs it. And at number 24, the Pittsburgh Steelers. This might ruffle some feathers as the Steelers have a long-term need at offensive tackle and quarterback. However, with it seeming as if Ben Roethlisberger might give it one more go, Pittsburgh must do what they can to put their offense in the best spot to succeed. And frankly, they have to become more balanced and improve the run game, which is where Najee Harris comes into the fray. He is a perfect fit for what the Steelers would ideally want in the backfield, capable of running inside or outside with great vision. He's got the ability to make players miss. I think he's a dynamic weapon that also showed great prowess as a pass catcher out of the backfield. The arrival of Harris would take a ton of pressure off Big Ben, and as such, raise the ceiling of Pittsburgh's offense in the immediate future. And at number 25, the Jaguars back on the clock. And now that Lawrence is in tow, the Jaguars have, a ton of options for where they could go with the pick owed to them by the Rams. By the way, this pick is owed to them because of the Jalen Ramsey trade. And while landing another offensive weapon is most certainly in play, they must protect their investment in Lawrence as best as possible, which is why they don't pass up the opportunity to take Liam Eichenberg in this spot. Coming out of Notre Dame, Eichenberg, he's not a freak athlete who wins with all of his physical tools. Instead, I'd say he's one of the most fundamentally ready players at the position in this class. He's got the power. He's got the feel for the game that's, uncanny. He has the makings of a player who could start right away for Jacksonville and serve as a quality anchor on the line. And at number 26, the Cleveland Browns. Look, the future is bright for the Browns, first of all. You shed your playoff monkey off your back. Baker Mayfield, you see him make some real strides throughout this year. I'd say the future of the offense is in good hands. And while the defensive playmakers at the top have stepped up, the depth on that side of the ball remains a bit of a question, especially on the defensive line. So here, with this pick, Cleveland gets Jalen Phillips from Miami with this pick to address that and give Myles Garrett a running mate for the long haul on the edge. He finally blossomed in 2020 with Miami, and he showed off his elite blend of size, technique, and explosiveness off the edge. I do think he needs to be a more disciplined player with his rushes, but his upside, it's just off the charts. And the Browns could strike fear to any opponent with him coming off the edge opposite Garrett. And number 27, the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens' struggles, both in the regular season at times and in the playoffs, brought into focus the need for this team to fix two areas of the offense. First, they must address the interior of the offensive line, but that can be done in the mid-rounds of the draft. Second, the Ravens have to get more weapons in the passing game beyond Marquise Brown and Mark Andrews. Brevin Jordan, tight end, is my pick here. Brevin Jordan may not seem like an obvious pick at number 27, but he would be a great addition for Lamar Jackson to operate with. He is a phenomenal run-after-catch player in the passing game, which would be perfect for getting him the ball in the quick passing game and letting him work. And while he does need work as a blocker, I think Jordan would be a plus addition for a pass-catching group that needs reinforcements. At number 28, the New Orleans Saints. If the divisional round loss to the Bucs was indeed the last hoorah for Drew Brees with the Saints, then there are obvious questions the team needs to answer at quarterback. However, it's hard to imagine them doing that in any meaningful capacity at the 28th pick, especially with a reported desire to bring Jameis Winston back next season. So they're going to look elsewhere with their first-round pick. New Orleans' defense played well down the stretch, but the middle of the defense could stand to be shored up long-term. And a player like Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah could be a linchpin in making that happen. He is undersized, which is why he falls, but his blend of elite athleticism and instincts makes him a valuable weapon that could be deployed creatively and hopefully versatilely by the Saints. And at number 29, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Especially with the likely return of Tom Brady for the season, it's hard to find a spot on offense where the Buccaneers really could use some help unless they wanted to upgrade at running back. But that would, in fact, be irresponsible on their part, not just because of the value of the position, but also because their defensive line, it's just going to be a key area of focus this offseason. Assuming they can retain Shaq Barrett and Jason Pierre-Paul, the Bucs need to get a player like Christian Barmore from Alabama on the interior. He remains raw, but I think he has an elite skill set that any NFL team should be eager to develop with how disruptive he can be on the interior in every facet. And at number 30, the Buffalo Bills. Tre'Davious White has established himself as one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL over the past few seasons, but the sneaky truth about this Bills defensive back group is that no one has emerged as a true number 2 opposite of White. That's something that this team must address as they look to keep their Super Bowl hopes alive moving forward, which is why they take Eric Stokes near the end of the first round. He isn't an elite athlete with top-end speed, but he has this ability to mirror and match with footwork, and that just makes him a quality player on the outside. He needs to become more disciplined with his feet and hands to avoid lapses, but with the improvement he's shown with experience, there's reason to believe he has yet to reach his ceiling and could be a wonderful player for the Bills to pair with White. And number 31, the Green Bay Packers. It's still wild to look back at last year's draft and think that the Packers deemed it necessary to not only select a quarterback in the first round, but trade up to do so. Because as Aaron Rodgers proved, that's not the immediate concern. And the fact that Rodgers has been as good as he's been this season without a consistent weapon in the passing game outside of Devonta Adams, and maybe Robert Tonyan, by the way, is more remarkable. That can't happen again. So they add Kadarius Toney, the playmaker from Florida, with the 31st pick in this mock draft. While Toney won't be mistaken for Adams in terms of his technical route running, he's an elite athlete that consistently can create space and make plays down the field. Adding that element alongside Adams for Rodgers to look for, that would make for one of the best offenses in the league even more lethal at that point. At number 32, the final pick in my very first mock draft of the 2021 season, Kansas City is on the clock. And one thing that's been clear for the Chiefs this offseason, despite all of their success, is that they are playing with fire with the offensive line. That unit is largely comprised, specifically on the interior, of players who simply don't have a high pedigree. While they performed well enough, it's an area in which the Chiefs could easily make improvements via the draft. So with this pick, they go with Wyatt Davis from Ohio State. I think he's a terrific option for Kansas City at the end of the first round. He's going to come into the NFL ready to play right away. He's got nice technical ability, and he's got an ability to move well in space. He can create power easily to gain leverage, get a push. And I think his addition to the Chiefs offense could help to make that dangerous unit less volatile in the trenches. And that'll do it for my 2021 NFL mock draft, the first of draft season. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe. We are so close to 500 yet again. We are so hyped to reach that goal. Follow the socials down in the description. Instagram and Twitter will be down there. Let me know in the comments what you want your favorite team to do, how they should go about this draft, because it's going to be an interesting one for sure. No combine. We may not get the best read on these prospects, but hey, it's going to be a fun time. I'm hyped to get into draft season. This has been Srikar, and I'll see you guys next time.